Look at the streets across India today, and you will see tens of thousands of angry students clashing with the system. Student groups, operating under satirical names like the Cockroach Janta Party, have flooded the internet with extremely specific demands. They want a mandatory backup exam ready within 72 hours of any cancellation, and independent tech audits of the testing platforms. The target is clear. Millions are calling for the resignation of Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, holding his administration responsible for the chaos. If you watch the nightly news, the story seems straightforward. The public consensus is that this outrage is entirely a reaction to leaked exam papers, corrupted testing centers, and administrative greed. This cycle of canceled exams is the visible outcome of a sequence of systemic failures, a breakdown that starts years before a student ever sees a test paper. National debate has centered on encryption and server security. But for the students, the most significant barriers are the physical and biological hurdles they had to clear just to reach that exam hall. To understand the depth of this crisis, we have to look far away from the urban exam centers and go down to the most basic building block of learning, the rural primary school. A recent joint study conducted by WaterAid, AIMS, and IIT Bhubaneswar investigated the daily reality for school-going girls in the state of Odisha. This graphic shows a devastating reality. 74% of these girls miss up to 7 days of school every month. They stay home because their schools completely lack clean running water, proper waste disposal, and safe, functioning toilets. When their menstrual cycle begins, these young students are forced into an impossible choice. They have to decide between getting an education or protecting themselves from severe infections and the public humiliation of managing their periods without basic sanitation. This creates an invisible barrier. Long before a student is old enough to sit for a competitive entrance exam, the physical state of their school systematically filters marginalized youth out of the system. A school without a safe toilet ceases to be a place of learning. It operates as a mechanism of systemic exclusion, where the price of an education is paid entirely with a child's human dignity. Some students do manage to survive this broken primary infrastructure. They endure years of missing resources, eventually graduate, and attempt to enter the workforce. When they arrive at the job market, they face mathematical impassibilities. Take the recent UP Constable recruitment exams. 2.1 million youths applied to fight for a mere 32,000 available posts. These candidates come from remote villages and hamlets. Moving millions of them into urban centers for testing creates an immediate logistical nightmare, especially since most cannot afford a private car or even an intercity bus ticket. Their only remaining lifeline is the railway. Candidates cram into passenger trains, forcing their way through windows just to physically reach the exam hall. The train captures the reality of two overlapping Indias. In the front, passengers in first AC complain about delays, while right behind them, in the general bogie, desperate students absorb the physical abuse of a system that has no space for them. By the time they sit down with a test paper, the state has already severely tested their physical endurance, patience, and proximity to poverty. The academic assessment is almost an afterthought. This logistical gauntlet turns the exam process into a survival test, effectively selecting candidates based on the limits of their physical stamina and financial resources. All of this brings us right back to the burning streets and the canceled exams. The explosive rage we are seeing is the anger of millions who sacrifice their dignity in primary school, risk their safety on overcrowded trains, and finally reached the finish line, only to discover the entire race was rigged and sold to the highest bidder. Handing out financial compensation or running an independent tech audit on an app will not solve this. Those are temporary bandages wrapped around a structurally compromised building. We often hear about India's demographic dividend, the massive economic potential of a young, working-age population. But you cannot build an economy on a missing foundation. Until the country commits to building a structurally sound system, from the dignity of a primary school toilet all the way up to the integrity of the highest administrative office, the right to education will remain a broken promise.